Good evening, everybody. Today is Thursday, August 11th, and we have a really special treat. We've got Molly and Karl back with us, and they're going to be talking about a coil that I don't know how to properly pronounce. I think it's Lakhovsky, but they will tell you way more about it. It's one of the healing technologies that they have, and they've been using, and it looks super cool. But more importantly, it's been helping a lot of people around the world. So great to have you guys back on the show, and I will turn back over to you guys to get this call started.
All right, thanks, Emily. Do you want me to switch to presentation?
Sure, yeah.
Let's see. Why isn't this easier? Share screen. All right. Sorry, just want to get in presentation mode here. All right. You see presentation mode there?
Not yet, but the slides are up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Slides are up. Okay. So what we're going to be talking about tonight is what's called the Lakhovsky healing coils, and it's something that we came across a couple of years ago. Oh, about 2 years ago, year and a half, 2 years ago.
It's actually from, Whiplash posted about the tachyon chambers a year and a half ago, and we went up to the one in Virginia, and the second time we went, he had these in his lobby. So that's how we were introduced to him. So it's all thanks to Whip.
Yeah, so we were doing the tachyon chambers, and in between times, he told us to go ahead and sit in these coils for a while. And I noticed some big time effects from these coils. So we started looking more into it, and we ended up buying a set for ourselves. So we'll go through this. We'll go through a few slides here to go through the technology and the history and everything. And then after that, we'll show you ours here and show you how it actually works, because it's actually really cool. So the current situation for everybody's exhausted, and everybody has chronic fatigue and everything, and there's so many products on the market to give everybody energy, and everybody's hopped up on coffee trying to get energy because everybody's just feeling so tired. And one of the things that we're going to go over in the presentation is that each of your cells, like every cell of your body, is a little battery. And this is what not only Tesla, but Dr. Lakhovsky, this is one of the things that he theorized, was that each one of your cells is like a little battery. And once the voltage of your battery gets down to a certain point, you start diminishing. And at some point, you start getting to the disease state. So what we're going to do with these coils is we're going to fix that. So if you go to Lakhovsky.com, and that's how you spell it right there. If you go to Lakhovsky.com, it has a really good breakdown of what Lakhovsky's research was, what happened, and it has a lot of information on there. And at the bottom of the page, it takes you to a place in New Zealand where you can buy these, and that's where actually we bought ours. But there's a ton of information on there, and it's a great read, and it has a link to a book that Lakhovsky published that's available for free there. You can just get the PDF there. So what he designed was what he called the multi-wave oscillator, or what he called the MWO. And reading through the website, what the person who wrote this website was saying is that the MWO is part Tesla coil and part Earth generator, and it's pure geneless. We'll talk more about that as we go along. But Lakhovsky's device was used in this country until 1942, and in Europe for another 15 years. It was ordered removed from U.S. hospitals that were using it shortly after Lakhovsky died in 1942. He was hit by a car. Coincidence? You be the judge. We'll talk more about that, but it's pretty wild, the history, and how we almost lost it. So the original multi-wave oscillator was designed by the French engineer Georges Lakhovsky, and I may be pronouncing that wrong, from the 1920s to the 1940s. So when he started using these in hospitals across Europe and then in the United States, he had a crazy success rate with cancers and all kinds of other things. And he had a 98% success rate with fatal cancers, and today we celebrate 50% 5-year survival rate. So if you don't die within 5 years of cancer, we're considering that a win instead of actually curing it. You know, we haven't cured anything in this country for I don't know how long because there's so much money in just keeping you sick and just mitigating your symptoms. But we'll talk about that more later. So
Hey,
what? Look, go
don't mean to interrupt.
ahead.
But the slides aren't moving with you.
The slide. Hang on, just give it a second.
You're right, you're not.
They were. It may just take a little bit. Have we gone through any slides, or are we still on the first slide, Emily?
Still on the first one.
What a waste of time. All right. Maybe slideshow mode. Just
Can you
doesn't
see it
work
now?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, just keep it here. Just keep it here and here.
Good enough.
Okay, so you can see it right now, right, Emily?
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Okay, so Dr. Lakhovsky was the first to predict the existence of the double helix that we know as DNA. So he was a very smart person. Okay, and in regards to this, he postulated that all living cells, whether it's plant, people, bacteria, or parasites, they possess attributes that are normally associated with oscillating electrical circuits. Now, and this is all coming from that article on that Lakhovsky.com page. But from here, he's talking about how all your cells possess attributes that are normally associated with electric circuits. And if you read through this, he starts going through electrical engineering jargon, which I get. I mean, that's my background. But then he starts talking about resonance. And he said this effect is known as resonance. And the easiest way to compare it is with a child swinging or on a playground swing. So resonance is a concept known in physics and engineering where if you do something at a certain frequency, it can multiply itself. About a child swinging on a swing, and if you've ever pushed your kid while on a playground swing, you know that if you push at just the right frequency, that you can push very little and keep the kid swinging at the same height. And that's because you're pushing at the resonant frequency. The same thing with bridges. Bridges are built to basically tamp down the resonant frequency, because if bridges are built wrong and wind starts blowing and it starts hitting the bridge at a certain frequency, if the wind constantly hits at this certain frequency, then it can completely rattle the bridge apart. And if you've ever seen videos of that online, you can Google bridge resonance and see these bridges just flying apart. It's because the wind is hitting the bridge at a certain frequency, and it multiplies itself just by doing the same thing at that same frequency. So that's the concept of resonance, is just you pick a certain frequency that is the perfect frequency for whatever it is that you're talking about, and that frequency has magic effects on it, and it can amplify things in a huge way. So that's resonance. So what Lakhovsky built was his multi-wave oscillator. He designed it in around 1920 and was working on through the 40s. But he believed that every cell in the body has its own rate of internal vibration. And by vibration, you can think of an atom. And an atom is made up of a proton and a neutron in its nucleus, and then electrons flying around the nucleus at incredible speeds. And every time the electron circles around the nucleus, that makes one pass. And if it does it a bunch of times per second, an incredible amount per second, that's the frequency that it's making those circles around the nucleus. And that electron moving around creates vibration. So that's when, there's a lot of talk. If you read a bunch of books or whatever, a lot of people are talking about everything is vibration. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about the speed that an electron will fly around the nucleus of an atom. So he believed that every cell has its own rate of internal vibration, and that disease is a battle of vibrations between the cells of between the healthy cells and the cells of viruses and bacteria. And it's constant battle between the vibrations of both of those cells. And if the pathogenic organisms won this vibrational contest, the cell would become weakened energetically and much more susceptible to disease.
So cells are happy at one vibration, and bacteria or whatever comes in and messes up that vibration, and then we have disease.
Well, actually, what what it is disease cells will vibrate at a certain frequency, and healthy cells vibrate at a different frequency. And so you can
And
use
one will
those different, yeah, right. And one of them is going to win. So the differentiation of those frequencies is what's kind of key to what he's doing here. So he says the way to counter this vibrational attack was to introduce a broad spectrum of radio frequencies. And what that means is basically a bunch of different radio frequencies into the system. And you do that by sitting in between these two coils. On the right-hand side, there's the picture there. That's one of the coils. And when you buy a set, you buy 2 of these coils. You set them up, with some space in between them, and you sit in between them. But what he's saying is you introduce a bunch of radio frequencies into the system, and then each cell in your body, healthy cells and not healthy cells, each cell would pick out exactly the right frequency needed to reinforce its own internal vibration, and the healthy cell would be more resistant to vibrational attacks from virus and bacteria. So basically these coils will put out a whole bunch of EMFs, a whole bunch of radio frequencies that are what your body needs, that are the proper frequencies that the healthy cells in your body needs. And your healthy cells will pick up on these frequencies, and will all of a sudden start healing themselves and getting stronger. And at the end, they'll be able to overtake any disease cells and basically kill them. So when you look at this ring, this whole thing is an antenna, and these rings are close to 3 foot across at the widest radius there. Each ring radiates at a different wavelength, at a different frequency. The different diameter rings, they emit a different frequency. But when you turn them on, each ring, the diameters produce different frequencies, and they all interact with each other. And what you get is the natural frequency of the Earth. So when we go out and we walk around in the woods, like everybody knows that if you go for a walk in the woods, or if you spend considerable time in nature, you come out of there and you feel great. And one of the reasons being that the Earth is supposed to, the Earth that we're supposed to be living in is supposed to be set up to have a certain magnetic field that we are constantly living in. And the magnetic field that we're supposed to be living in, the clouds and the Earth, between those two things, there's supposed to be a magnetic field in between them. And what happens if you see lightning, that is the discharge of that magnetic field and the electric field coming from the clouds to the Earth. So it's basically like shorting a wire. And so there's this magnetic field happening between the clouds and the Earth. And we are grounded, and this field that we're supposed to be living in is the natural field that our healthy cells will react to and grow stronger. That's where we're supposed to, that's what we're supposed to be living in. And if we were living in it, we'd feel great basically all the time. That's why when you go out in the woods, you feel, after a while, you feel great. But what we live in now is not that. We're surrounded by Wi-Fi, we're surrounded by cell phones, we're surrounded by all these power lines and whatnot. And the more that, us personally, the more that we've gotten rid of wireless stuff in our house. I mean, we had to get rid of Wi-Fi for a while because of our son was, reacting eczema-wise to Wi-Fi. And when we got rid of it, we noticed how calm our house was. You remember that?
Yeah, it was a feeling of stress disappeared, and it was like, holy crap, stress is artificial. It's Wi-Fi.
Yeah, we had, our son had eczema really bad, so we were looking at everything that could possibly be affecting it, and we realized that not only did we have Wi-Fi covering our house, but we also had these baby monitors that is Wi-Fi direct, which is even stronger than Wi-Fi, and that was right next to his crib. So we shut all that off, and not only did it help as far as eczema goes, but after about 5 or 6 hours of turning all the Wi-Fi off and getting rid of all that wireless stuff, Molly and I were sitting around the house, and we were like, wow, the house just feels really calm.
Yeah.
It was really kind of crazy to feel, but everything was really calming. So the more we go along, the more we realize that all this wireless stuff, whether it's Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or whatever, all this stuff, just so much of it around us is a lot worse for us than what they're telling us. So this world that we kind of created out of convenience is not very good for us, and that's why we're kind of deteriorating at a accelerated pace. So if you get one of these, that can turn it around, because these things are really amazing. I can't go more than a few days without hopping into one of these things. So there was a guy named Otto Warburg who won a Nobel Prize, and he said that healthy cells have a voltage of 70 to 90 millivolts. So in your house, if you take a voltmeter and you plug it into the plugs in your outlets in your house, that's 120 volts. And a millivolt is 1,000th of 1 volt. Okay, so he's saying that every healthy cell has voltages of 70 to 90 millivolts. So it's very small, but it's very powerful when you're talking about the cells in your body. It says, due to the constant stresses of modern life and a toxic environment, cell voltage tends to drop as we age or as we get sick. So you see these diagrams over here, we're going to talk more about them, but the more the voltage deteriorates, the worse things get for our bodies. We start getting tired first. That's the second state in the yellow. We start getting tired, we start getting unfocused and all that stuff. And then we start getting into the disease state as we get older. Okay, so that's what we're trying to fix, because we're all going through this, pretty rapid deterioration that seems to be getting even more rapid as the generations go on. So as the voltage drops in each cell, the cell is unable to maintain a healthy environment. So if the electrical charge of a cell drops to 50, the person starts getting chronic fatigue and gets sick a lot. If the voltage drops to 15, it can become cancerous. Okay, so that's what these people who are very, very smart were saying, that is one of the main causes of disease. And the more we go along and we go through tachyon chambers and we go through homeopathy, which is what Molly does a lot, and it really seems like our world is approaching medicine like it's some chemistry project. If we're sick, it's because we're lacking some chemical. So here's a chemical you can take to fix it. But the more we go along and we see all this technology that's out there, medicine really needs to be based in physics, not in chemistry. Yeah, it's not a chemical that we're missing. Our bodies are electrical systems.
No, that's because you're giving it the nourishment. You still need vitamins, minerals.
Yeah, right. You can't eat like crap.
Yeah, if you're doing the basic things, so anything you need to fix,
Yep. So frequency. Our bodies are electrical systems, and whenever you have electric current running through a wire or anything, you generate magnetic fields. That's basically how motors work and how generators and transformers work. That's everyday physics. But for some reason, we don't apply that to our body, even though we know our bodies are huge electrical systems. So we are generating magnetic fields all the time, and for some reason, medicine just completely ignores that. And when you start getting into these energy medicines and these things that start looking at frequencies and magnetic fields as methods of healing, you're like, wow, this makes a whole lot of sense, and it makes a whole lot more sense than I'm deficient in Prozac. So anyways, let's go on, because I can talk myself into the closet. The fastest way to raise cell voltages is, from what Dr. Lakhovsky was saying, is by going into this multi-wave oscillator. He discovered that healthy cells acted like little batteries and found out how to recharge them and how to raise their voltages. So he published the English version of a book called The Secret of Life at the start of World War II. This is when he was in France. His work went very unnoticed and little reviewed, but Lakhovsky's reputation for obtaining dramatic results with his multi-wave oscillator gained big attention. And in 1941, he made his way to New York, escaping Nazi occupation of France. And this is coming from that Lakhovsky.com. I'm pulling a lot of the stuff from that page because that was actually a very, very good page to read. It's kind of long, but it's very good information. When he got to the US, a film made by an enterprising beautician featured several case histories of treatment with a multi-wave oscillator that proved to be both convincing and interesting. And Lakhovsky also was approached by several hospitals in New York, hoping to test his apparatus experimentally. Remarkable results were obtained from a 7-week clinical trial performed at a major New York City hospital, and that of a prominent Brooklyn urologist in the summer of 1941. Later editions of The Secret of Life detailed many of these cases. Okay, so he started doing this in Europe, and it was very successful. Then he came over here and started doing it, and it caught the attention of a New York City hospital. Okay, so that's how this history of it is very interesting, and it's interesting how it was almost lost. So that's why I'm going through this. When he got to New York, what seemed like a promising development in the use of the multi-wave oscillator quickly faded after Lakhovsky unexpectedly died in New York in 1942 at the age of 73. A car struck and killed him in a most suspicious manner. Now, I don't know what suspicious manner that was because this was 1942 and there's not too much record of it, but his equipment was removed from the hospital and patients were told that the therapy was just no longer available all of a sudden.
No longer available.
No longer available. Except for this brief trial in New York, Lakhovsky's work remained completely unknown to the American public. So what happened, picturing yourself back in the 1920s and what was happening, that was the heyday of, the Rockefellers. That was when they were coming to power. And we all know that the Rockefellers in the 1920s, that was when the Rockefellers started pumping major money into the American Medical Association because they were trying to sell, the Rockefellers at that time were big in oil. And what they were trying to do at the time was trying to figure out all these different ways to sell their petroleum products, and it included medicine. So what they did was they went, and this is in all kind. If you've ever seen the Truth About Cancer docuseries, right? It was in there. Truth About, I forget if it was the Truth About Vaccines or the Truth About Cancer. May have been both, but they were talking about this in the 1920s. The Rockefellers started approaching the American Medical Association and the medical education institutions, and they started pumping them full of money. And the payback for them giving them all that money was for the medical associations to start promoting these chemical medicines, so that they can sell their petroleum products.
And telling their patients that if they saw a homeopath, somebody doing some weird energy work, an acupuncturist, they would not be allowed back to their AMA doctor. So they scared people into only using pharmaceutical medicine.
Yeah, back before the 1920s, there were, what we call allopathic doctors, which is what we know as a doctor today, a doctor who will prescribe, medications and stuff like that. But there were equal numbers of chiropractors and herbalists and homeopaths all across the country. There was lots of different types of doctors back then, and they were all accepted as equals. Mm-hmm. Well, then all of a sudden the Rockefellers come and they start pumping money into the AMA, and that was when they started going after all the different disciplines of medicine and attacking them, and they started calling them quackery. And they got rid of all of them except for basically chiropractors. The chiropractors were the only ones that really put up a fight. But even at that, chiropractors have been basically dismissed as elected doctor, and they've been pretty much, in the public eye, they are backcrackers. They're not medical doctors. They don't fix chronic diseases when they go through just about the same medical training as doctors.
Actually, chiropractors, I forgot who the first one was. I think it was Dr. Parker. Might have been the first one to start a college for chiropractics. And if he's one that I'm thinking of, he was actually all of them were jailed for practicing medicine, but he was the only one that fought back. So every time he was jailed, his clients would go and bail him out over and over and over again.
Yeah. Yep. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah. The only ones with guts, the homeopaths, the acupuncturists, they didn't fight, and nobody knows that those exist anymore. You look up homeopathy and all you get is it's, quackery now, and nobody even knows what a homeopath is.
Yep.
So at least somebody fought.
So all that was going on back in the 1920s when Rockefeller wanted to push his chemical medicines, and at the same time, this guy, Dr. Lakhovsky, is having great success in New York, and especially New York of all places. That's where he started doing these projects and having great success, and all of a sudden he gets hit by a car. At the same time that the Rockefellers are going after the American Medical Association. So it's not too far of a stretch that this guy was taken out. So even after spectacular successes at the New York cases, they were quickly forgotten, an unlikely lapse of memory in the natural scheme of things. It seemed that hidden hands were at work when it came to obliterating the memory of Lakhovsky's multiple-wave oscillator in America. Fortunately, a small but growing group of experimenters and researchers is helping to revive this honest device. Thousands of people have been helped quietly and without fanfare due to the monopoly the doctors enjoy on being able to make medical claims. So several people now offer multi-wave oscillators. Like I said, we got ours from New Zealand, but there are people that in the U.S. that make them. They're different prices and all that stuff, but the one that we got was from New Zealand. The person writing this article says, my own use of the multi-wave oscillator has demonstrated miraculous results. I've seen it completely defeat arthritis, gout, cancer, diabetes, nerve damage, and other maladies. The multi-wave oscillator helps tune up the body so that it heals like it was young and vibrant again. And my own observations are in complete agreement with Lakhovsky's claims and research results. So that's what these people see. And when we got this, what we saw was pretty amazing. So what we're going to do now is we'll show you our setup in our house. Probably hit that button.
There we go.
Okay. So let's see. I'll get this thing set up for you. Give us a second.
So the coils extend out on the side. This one's wanted so you can see the size of them. They pull out. I don't think you actually want to turn it on.
No, we can turn it on. They want to see it.
And all you do is you sit in them in between a chair for 10 to 15 minutes, and it's recharge all the cells in your battery. It's a little bit loud. We'll turn it on for a second just so you see what it does.
There's a fan in there, and then we just turn it on for a minute.
Hey Molly, I did that whole contraption come with the coils, or is that something that you guys built?
So it comes with not the contraption. I built the wood frame. It comes on these really ugly PVC pipes that I couldn't stand in my living room. So I built the wooden structure, but it comes with the fan unit and the coils and some PVC pipes that you just stick them on. And they work. They're just ugly.
Black box. It comes with the 2 coils and a grounding wire that you
just
can't
a
see.
copper coil.
Yep.
But that was $2,500 from New Zealand.
Was it 25 or 15?
I think it was $2,500 with shipping.
No, that might have been with shipping. Yep.
There's one in Charlotte, and it was $5,000.
Yeah.
But it looked identical.
Yeah.
And there wasn't anything different about it.
Yeah. So you sit in between them for 10, 12 minutes or whatever, and you just sit there. If you touch the coils, the first time we did it, I had my son in my hands. My son was 5 at the time, and so we would sit. He would sit in my lap while we were doing it. And at one point, he touched one of the rings, and it zapped him.
It's loud.
And it's a loud zap, and it scared him. But it's not there's not much power. This thing up here is a spark. It's a spark generator. So there's a little window that you can look at, and it's generating a spark, and that's one of the things that generates the big magnetic fields. Whenever you generate a spark like lightning, it generates big magnetic fields. But there's not a lot of power behind it. So if you do touch it, it'll zap you and it'll kind of scare you, but it's like not enough to hurt you.
Like balloon static.
Yeah, it's not enough to hurt you. So it kind of scared him. But so you don't want to touch these things. It's not pleasant, but it's not going to hurt you. So you just sit in between them for 10, 12 minutes. I think I do 12 minutes. My son, we do 10 minutes with him. And you do that. I tell you, you do it 3 times in, say, 5 days, and it feels like you are on a permanent pot of coffee. The whole thing about, yeah, I mean, without the whole thing about it recharging every cell, the battery in every cell of your body, that's exactly what it feels like.
The only thing you have to be careful of is it will cause detox reaction. So it's tuning up every cell in your body. So, say if you've got a sluggish liver, and you're tuning up your liver and tuning up everything else, your toxins are going to start flushing out. So the only thing you have to really be careful of is, like anything else, go slow and steady so you don't detox too much. One of the coolest things I've seen with it is we've got a lot of anaphylaxis in our house that we treat, and it's one of the biggest reasons we got this is our little guy who struggled with eczema and food allergies and everything. And one day he had hives all over, and I'm like, let me just try the coils. I love that it's just kind of a one and done, turn it on. I don't have to like think about what remedy or anything. And the hives went away and he was fine. No stomach ache, nothing. It was just gone. And the coils don't neutralize toxins. They make your cells work correctly. So all it was really doing was tuning up his body to the extent just sitting there for 10 minutes that his body could deal with it. So he got a little lesson instead of just, you know, if I give him activated charcoal, you know, it doesn't teach his body anything. It may neutralize the problem we're having, but his body didn't get any smarter. It's going to have the same problem next time. But if you're doing something like this, your body's getting smarter. It's learning, much like homeopathic medicine.
Well, it's not like the strategy now that everybody's into is taking probiotics, because you know everybody has leaky gut, and leaky gut's a big thing. We're all trying to fix it and all that stuff. So people are taking probiotics and eating sauerkraut and stuff like that with the intention that if you provide enough good bugs, the good bugs will overpower the bad bugs, and that's how you fix, you know, intestinal diseases and things like that. Same thing here. All you're doing is recharging the batteries of all the healthy cells so that the healthy cells overtake the cancerous cells. So, but yeah, it's really amazing. There's the feedback, Emily. Were you going to say something?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was going to ask a question, but then I wanted to keep going.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I do have a couple questions, and I also see Susan has her hands raised. But to kind of like to continue on that thought that you're just talking about, like counteracting measures and everything, do you guys have to turn off Wi-Fi for that to be effective, or does it counteract it on its own? Because I think most people are not going to turn off the Wi-Fi in their house, right?
Right. So you go in there, and it's basically like you went up to the top of the mountain peak with no technology, you know, and you stayed there for 5 days. Like when you come out of it, that 10 minutes later, that's what you're going to feel like. So yeah, it's counteracting all the crap that we do. And that doesn't mean go eat a Twinkie afterwards, but you know, it is counteracting it.
Yeah, and turning off the Wi-Fi didn't have anything to do with this. We had to do that because we had eczema, extreme eczema that we were dealing with. Now I will say
he was basically getting radiation burn.
Yeah. Now I will say that we went. You know, everybody has Wi-Fi in their house for internet, and everybody's streaming stuff through their TV. And what we did was we went and bought some adapters that you can plug into your outlets in your wall, and it basically makes it so that you have hardwired internet, but the internet signal is running through the power wires in your house. So these are called power line adapters. Like ours are from Netgear. If you search for Netgear power line adapters, you'll find them. And they basically make it so that you can you take a module and you plug the Ethernet cord into your router, and then you plug this into the wall. And that's where you take the internet signal and you plug it into the wires on your wall. Then you come downstairs, wherever you want internet, you plug in another one of these devices, and then on the bottom of that you have an Ethernet port, and then you hardwire that to either your TV or your laptop or whatever, and now you have hardwired Ethernet all over your house without going through the expense of adding Ethernet cable all over your house. We did do that, and that actually works really well, and now you have hardwired Ethernet speeds all over the house, which is great. But what you can also do, which we started doing after our son started getting better, is you can also buy a wireless adapter that you can also plug into the outlet in your house, and that creates a small wireless network right around your general vicinity, so you can kind of limit where your Wi-Fi is, and you can unplug it at night, like we unplug it every night, so that we don't have wireless signals all over the house at night while we're sleeping. And so that's how we've kind of organized our house, and it works great. So during the day, we have this plugged in and we have wireless.
If there's a way to turn Wi-Fi off at night, that's
pretty cool. You can do that just by having, a timed outlet or something like that on your router.
Pull it out.
But ours, this thing, we just unplug it, and then the rest of the house has internet. So, but yeah, those two things are kind of separate. You don't have to have any kind of, wireless turned off for this thing to work.
Awesome. Okay, so I have a couple more short questions, but guys, if you guys have questions for Molly and Karl, start wiggling your hand around. That way we have we know who to unmute for that. So while I'm waiting for questions to come around, some quick ones. So it looks like you've got to turn on some kind of button to activate the grounding mechanism behind you before you sit in it. Is that correct? Or is it just like there all the time working?
You got to turn. Well, there is a grounding wire that you need to ground somehow, and they, if you go on their website and you look at the manuals, they say you can either ground it to a plant or something like that you can plug around. I don't even know how that works, or you can physically ground it somewhere. I just took like an old printer cable, a printer power cable, and I bent out the two prongs that go into that are the hot and neutral, so that only the grounding plug is still extended. And I plugged that into the wall, and then I just took the wire that, it's a little C-shaped copper ring that has a wire attached to it, and that wire I just jammed into the ground plug of that printer cable, and so nothing is touching but the ground wire. And you set that about, I don't know, 6-8 feet away from it, and that's supposed to be your grounding coil. So you plug that into the wall, and that's really about it. Then you turn the machine on, and that's really it. You turn the machine on, and that's when you heard the fan. And then once you crank the dial here, when you crank that white dial and say how long you want to do it, that's when the spark generator starts going. And that's when the machine actually turns on. Before that, it was just a fan turning on to cool the unit.
Okay, so some more questions. Is there a required distance? So behind you, I'm guessing that's about, 3-4 feet, something like that? Does it have to be that kind of measurement?
Apart?
The manual says to keep them about 4 feet. Unless you're treating like a sprained ankle, then you can move them in closer and focus on a specific area. But general health, you just keep them 4 feet apart. So that's to put these in your house is 4 feet.
Okay. And then how often do you guys sit in there? Is it a daily thing or more or less?
No, you got to watch out for detoxing. If you do it too long or too frequently, you can start detoxing. Some people get rashes. Yeah, like she'll get rashes. I just got really, really cranky if I do it too often. That's the way I started seeing.
His liver kicks up, basically.
Yeah.
Maybe that.
Okay.
12 minutes
and then
time.
What was that, Karl?
Normally, I'll do it every other day. Every other day seems to be a pretty good way of doing it.
Okay.
Is that what you're doing? Once a week?
Okay. So that so basically, if people are listening and they're interested in it, then maybe start once a week, and then you can ramp up if your body can handle it. And then if you start to detox too much, to ramp back down.
Yeah. Just pay attention to what your body's doing. Yep. And you'll find it.
Okay, cool. And then my last question before we turn over to Q&A is, it sounds like there might not be an official website to purchase this. Is that correct? It sounds like they're different vendors.
They're different vendors, but the ones, if you go to the Lakhovsky.com website, it'll take you if you go to the bottom of the page and you start clicking through where it says click here to buy it or whatever, I think it takes you to a website called alteredstates.com or something, and that's where we bought it. That's where we bought ours. Not the only place to get it, but that's where we bought ours.
Okay. And on that note, do you know if there are any... Sorry, what was that, Molly?
Oh, they all just seem to look the same. So we could get the $5,000 one from Charlotte that might ship quicker, or the $2,500 one from New Zealand and, I don't know, wait 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out if there's any potentiality for one of those a fake coil that we would have to worry about, scammy kind of coils.
Probably.
I mean, the people that are selling it, I think in Charlotte or someplace in the U.S., are calling the ones in. They're saying that all the ones that are made, especially the ones that are made in New Zealand, are all scams. It's like, I'm sorry, but I sit in this thing all the time, and I feel like I went for 2 months without it. And after a while, I was like, man, why am I so dragging? I was like, oh my God, I haven't done coils in a while. And then, the next 3 days straight, I did the coils. I was like, holy holy crap, like I feel amazing again. So this thing is obviously working. So maybe theirs works better. Maybe, I don't know, but this thing worked great.
This cured anaphylaxis just fine.
Yeah, right.
Me. But this really is one of the things I would look at, like post crypto money. I mean, if you did it with 5 friends, because you're not using it that much, it's kind of fairly affordable now if you were able to split it between some families that need help. But this is definitely something that I would want in my post crypto repertoire. I mean, even if we get med beds immediately, unless our air, our ocean, our water, our ground, our food is all going to be cleaned up immediately. We're immediately taken off of Wi-Fi and everybody's Bluetooth is ripped out of their head. Like, we're still bombarded with signals. So even if you get a med bed, you're going to start degrading, after that med bed. You need something like this, to help keep you at your 100% level.
Well, and what were you saying about the difference between this and the tachyon chamber energy?
Tachyon chamber is adding a tachyon particle, which is more like a connection with source. It's more, if you have a mental block, it'll help you work through it. If your physical problem is caused by something very emotional, it's going to help you work through that. Where this is just, fixing you at a cellular level. But I will say, I do feel like it does a lot for emotion and mentals too. When I sit in those coils, I can absolutely manifest easier, douse better, visualize, try to manipulate energy better. So it's definitely not doing something just to your physical body, but your fields. And the literature on it does say that it is working on your whatever you want to call it, your chi, your prana, your life force. So it is working on you at a deeper level.
Okay, thanks, guys. And by the way, it sounds like this New Zealand scam version is like those QFS acids, right? It's like they've got the scam label.
Yeah, there's probably a red triangle on the website.
Yeah. Okay. Susan, I saw you had a hand raised. I don't know if you have a question or not, but if you do, go ahead.
I do. I have 2 questions, if I may.
Please.
So you mentioned detox a couple times. Would that be basically, in your mind, the equivalent of a Herx reaction?
Absolutely. Yep. So cold, flu symptoms, just congestion coming out of your body, could be diarrhea, rashes, so just like anything else you're starting, you do it for 8 minutes. Okay, I'm fine. Do it for 10 minutes. Okay, I'm fine. I do it for 15, twice a week. I'm fine. You hit that point where you hit a Herx reaction, and that's just where you want to slow down. Your body just
okay, got it. Detox. Okay, I that's how I interpreted it, but I wanted to just ask. Yeah. So my next question is, in full disclosure, I know enough to fill a thimble about a Rife machine.
Okay.
So how does this coil situation compare to a Rife machine? Which, from what I understand, that gets tuned to one frequency at a time, and then you get exposed to that. But so anyway, I'll shut up and let you.
No, that was a perfect question because I wanted to cover that. So Rife machines are zappers. If you have influenza virus in your body, it's going to zap influenza and kill influenza. So Rife is very good at killing, the bad bugs, the bad bacteria in our body with a very specific frequency that zaps it. And then this is telling your body how to work correctly again. So they really go hand in hand as well. You can be killing the stuff off and making your body work better. So they work really well side by side. Work well side by side.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Susan, great questions. Does anybody else have any questions for Molly or Karl? Gotta raise your hand or else I can't see you. No questions. Quiet bunch today.
It's a pretty simple device.
Yeah, there's really not much to it. You sit in the middle of it and you see how it makes you feel. and it makes you feel amazing.
Susan, go ahead.
Well, I have another question. I didn't want to hog the space, but if nobody else does, so like how long does it take to set that thing up? I mean, you built that wooden frame for it, but you said it comes with something. It sounds like you could set it up pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, like the coils come they come how they are. Like you don't have to put those together or anything. So you just pull those out of a box and you hang them on the PVC pipes they gave you that, you got to put letter A and letter C, like IKEA.
You got to put a stand that's made out of PVC together, but that takes
5 minutes.
10 minutes. And then you hang the coils.
Cool. So super fast, really. You could be up and running like
in an hour.
Yeah, and it's dummy proof. I mean, it is really like if you can do a very simple IKEA project, like this is nothing.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I think that's it for me.
Easy. Like the Rife machines, I have a friend Spooky 2 right now that I need to figure out for. And it's major software and all these things, and homeopathy is my jam and I love it, but it can get really frustrating sometimes finding the right remedy. I love one and done solutions. Just sit in there and get better. Yeah.
Okay, next we've got Yellow. After Yellow is Carol Harris. So Yellow, you're going to have to unmute yourself. Oh, he just disappeared off the screen. Okay, let's go to Carol next then. Carol, are you there? You got to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm here. I had a question about, have you compared this device to the Tesla multi-wave oscillator? I didn't hear the whole show, so you might have went over that.
No, this is part Tesla coil. And that's one of the things that's in that box apparently, but I don't know if I haven't heard of something called a Tesla multi-wave oscillator. From what I understood, the multi-wave oscillator was something that was made by Lakhovsky using Tesla coils.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. So like on anti-aging bed, they have them. They have them for like $4,400, but it says that potential 70 to 90 millivolts, I think is.
It sounds like you're in the ballpark. It sounds like you're in the ballpark.
Yeah, it's probably just a catchy name. Lakhovsky.
Yeah, you put Tesla's name in something and it starts getting all kinds of attention from people in our space.
Right.
But no, it might be the same thing. I have no idea. This is just the one that we got is from that Altered States in New Zealand. So that's the only one that we have direct experience with.
Did you draw a link in this program to that?
I didn't put a link, but it's let's see.
I looked up Altered State and I got all kinds of crazy stuff without. I didn't get.
It's just if you just go to Lakhovsky.com, which is LAKHOVSKY.com. At the bottom of the page, let's see.
Okay, I didn't.
Towards the bottom of the page, there's a link that says, is that it? Yeah, at the very bottom of the page, there's a link that says, have a look at this unit. And that kicks you over to alteredstates.net. And you start scrolling around that page, and that's where it leads you to the sales page that we got ours from.
Well, I appreciate your time and your work on this. Thanks a lot.
Yep, anytime.
So, Carol, I don't know if this is what you're referring to. This is a Tesla coil that I was playing around with last weekend. And the major difference that I see so far, not understanding like the science behind it and the differences and benefits and everything between the two, is that the coils behind Molly and Karl, you sit in between, right? Because there are two. Whereas when I was playing with this Tesla coil last weekend, I had to go physically stand next to it and then put my body around it. And in this case, I basically wrapped my hands around the coils and hovered them there, like kind of like, in the air without touching them. So there's a little bit more effort involved. and it's not very convenient versus, you know, you could just sit there and do nothing and twiddle your thumbs. So that seems to be. I can't remember exactly what it was doing because I know I was targeting certain things, but I can't remember out of like all the different things that I was there for that day, which one specifically I was targeting. He essentially just said, come stand over here, put your arms around it, and don't get zapped. I was like, okay.
Did it make you feel better, or did you feel anything after doing it?
No, it wasn't like a feel better thing. I think it was like maybe there to zap something away. So I'm not sure exactly which thingy it was targeting.
So when you have something like this, was somebody talking? Okay, sounded like somebody else talking. Anyway, when you have something like that is a single point and it's radiating the magnetic fields outwards, that's kind of when you send all the magnetic fields out in all directions. That can, like, just from a physics standpoint, that can kind of make it so that you do have to wrap around the thing. And if you're sitting there like that for 15 minutes, that can get kind of cumbersome. With these, when you have two antennas that are next to each other, they create that magnetic field between them, and it kind of limits the magnetic field. It kind of contains it in between the two coils. And so it kind of takes all the energy and concentrates it in between the two antennas, or what they are. So all you have to do is sit in between them, and it does everything, which is kind of nice because you can read a book or you can watch TV or whatever.
Especially if you have kids.
Yeah, because one around you tell them to sit there. So that's kind of nice that you can just sit there and do nothing. But I know the Tesla coils are promoted as doing something that's, I don't know if it's different than this. It may be just a different form of doing the same thing. I've never really seen that device that you're showing on screen.
I'll see if we can get clarification on it. My understanding is it was zapping something away as opposed to supercharging cells. So, but I will get clarification on that. Carol, did you have another question? I saw you raise your hand again.
Yes, I was just going to say the one I'm speaking of fit in between them, but instead of like more digital.
What was that? What was the website you were looking at?
It's anti-aging bed, and I think it was under the wellness link. Yeah, they have a lot of different. There.
Look it up to see if it's the same or not. Under the wellness link.
The wellness link.
The wellness link.
Tesla One, Tesla coil.
There you go.
Tesla multi-wave oscillator. Here we go. Yeah,
that's
it looks
the same thing.
Yeah, those on that. So it's antiagingbed.com, and there's a link where you can go. You can go under wellness, and you can find Tesla multi-wave oscillator.
They are slightly smaller than ours, and I don't know what the difference would be.
Well, the difference is that our coils are made out of solid copper, and on this device, some companies are making the coils on a big printed circuit board. So it's not this big copper thing. It's flatter and smaller and all that. I don't know if one's better than the other or not. It would make sense if they're making on printed circuit boards. I mean, it could be just as good. Who knows? This is $4,300. I don't know where these people are out of. It could be the same thing. It could be the same thing. I just have never looked into this unit.
They're out of Florida, and they're I know they're on the PPN Patriot Channel. They sponsor those guys, and that's how they have those grounding blankets and stuff for that basically just plug into your ground wire, so you ground when you sit down, or for your workstation, or for your bed, or they have a lot of options like that. But anyways, I'm not trying to sell for them. I don't,
Yeah, this looks similar.
Yeah.
Yep.
Long story short, maybe the same thing, but guys, do your own research before you buy, so you don't get one of those scams.
Yeah.
Or the bad scams, not the good scams. Okay, thanks, Carol. Appreciate that. Let's go next to Yellow. Give me a second, Yellow. Okay, if you can unmute yourself, please.
Thank you for the information. Do you know the difference between this coil and the EE system from Sandro, Rose, Michael, and also the iTerra wand? Those two systems. What are the differences? Do you know?
I'm looking them up right now. Those aren't terms we're familiar with.
Nah, no idea. I don't even know if I'm looking at the right thing of what you were talking about. I'm not quite sure. I've never heard of the terms that you just threw out there.
Sorry, Yellow. I had to mute you because your microphone's bouncing off of theirs. I didn't catch the first name. Rose something?
It looks like EE system, and it looks like it's a scalar technology. I'm going to guess if that's scalar, it's probably more in line with Rife, and that it's a zapper. So the scalar machines I know that are radionic, what they're generally doing is they, even remotely, they'll diagnose you and be able to tell you, you've got this bacteria, this parasite, A, B, C, D, all these things bothering you, and then they'll zap you with all those frequencies. So if it is that, those would be targeting bad things in your body and getting rid of them, and then these would be fixing, just fixing your body, fixing your cells, and making your cells work. If we're looking at the right thing.
And the EE system seems like it's some unit, and you just sit in that room, and like for 2 or 3 hours or something like that. I just heard about it. The person, Jason Schuker, seems like they're partner with them trying to set up a center. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're just not familiar with it.
It's definitely not the same thing. And I don't know if it's good, bad, or better or worse. Yeah, I don't know.
And I haven't played with scalar, so I really can't comment on it.
Yeah, so I have seen the iTerra one. I haven't studied it at all yet, but I will also agree that it sounds like that one is a zapper one, right? Because it's like when you have pain in a certain place, you have to hover that in that area. So it's like a proactive zapping. That's at least how it comes across. Yep. Okay, I thought there was another hand. Sorry, Karl, what was that?
Go ahead. No, it would just take some reading. Go ahead.
Oh. I saw Fiona had a question as well, but she lowered her hand. Does anybody else have any questions? Going once, going twice, no more questions? Okay. Well then with that, is there anything that you guys want to end with or reiterate or add?
Not really. I mean, this thing's really cool. It's highly worth the money to us. I mean, if you can shell out $2,000, I don't even remember if it's $1,500 or $2,500. I forget which one. But it's worth everything as far as we've seen. So it's very cool.
Okay, thanks. Yep. Sorry, what was that?
We spent a lot of money doing a lot of weird stuff because we've had so many health issues with the family, and like this is definitely one of our favorites.
Yeah, it pays us to be crunchy sometimes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think this is really interesting because of all the different things that I've seen, except for, obviously beds that you're lying on, also like a very passive action. everything else seems to be like you have to work towards something, like move it around, hover around, which can be difficult for some people. Whereas this one, you sit passively there and you can still continue to do whatever else that you need to do. So I do find this very, very interesting. Thank you guys so much for sharing this info. I hadn't seen it before. I'd seen the symbols before, but didn't know what they were. So I thought it was just artwork. But guys, if y'all don't know who Molly and Karl are, they're some of our original task force members. They've been around for forever and ever. They also helped to lead the entire onboarding team that did our amazing tutorials. And Karl did the QSIresources.com website for us. So if you are new to QSI, these are kind of like the people that I worship, the ground they walk on. On top of that, they also did 2 really, really interesting calls earlier this year. I think it was like, January and February or March, something like that. And one of them was a call on activating your alpha wave frequency so that you can increase your intuition. And the other one was about dowsing. And both of them are just a wealth of information, because I think these are topics that people want to know more about, and they don't really know how to do it. And so these are, it's like you got your introductory intel coming from Molly and Karl, and then some basic how-to steps, and then some additional resources where you can go and learn more about it. So if anybody's interested in that kind of stuff, please check out those videos as well. They are on our YouTube channel, and you can also keyword search in Telegram as well. And I'm going to kind of put you on the put you in the hot seat for a second, Molly. But I know the channel is requesting for homeopathic remedies as well. I don't know, because I know you guys are super busy with the kids too and work. Do we have any indication of when that call might be in terms of time frame?
No. I have a 7-week course. Putting it into a week, hour and a half lecture is, a bitch. So yeah, I'm slowly working on it, but that one I feel like needs to be slides that people can print, because that they're going to have to be able to print out and study. So it is taking me a little bit of time. I'm going to say week after next.
Yeah, no rush on that. I liked the ideas of slides so they can go home, print it out, make their own recipes. So
yeah, because homeopathy is only as good as knowing the formula on how to do it. And if you get the formula wrong, you might think you did something worthless, and it's not. It's just you needed to do it 4 times a day and you only tried it once.
So maybe like, because I just don't know enough about it to be
intro classes are usually 7 weeks for an hour and a half each. So yeah, it's just a lot to cram in, but we'll get it done.
Okay, cool. I'll leave it to you guys to figure out what is the best and not too time consuming or too difficult to present. So for anybody who wants to know more about the homeopathic stuff, it is coming. Date TBD. Time roughly around this kind of time frame usually works for Molly and Karl. Yeah. And then whenever we can set a date on that, then we'll make some additional posts on it. So
cool.
Alrighty. Well, thank you guys again very, very much for this. And we will post the links that I think it was Lakhovsky.com, something like that. We'll post it on the actual.
Yeah, Lakhovsky.com. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. We'll post that on the actual post when I got the video ready to share as well. So thank you guys, and have a good rest of your night. I saw Karl, you were yawning, so you might need to go sit back in there for a couple minutes.
Whatever.
Before he's old.
Whatever. Thank you, Emily,
Thank
for everything you do.
Appreciate it, Emily.
You're welcome, guys. Take care, and thank you all again. All right, so we're going to close out the call. I'll post the recording shortly. Bye, guys.
Bye.
See ya.